We're going to talk about working with black products and how do you deal with that kind of situation. And also, I'll discuss how to deal with other situations, such as rendering black interiors. So, I'm going to show some examples. We're going to jump on Pinterest, look at some photography first, and then we're going to jump into Blender, set up our scene, show you how to properly set up a scene so that you're working in an organized manner. And then also, I'm going to be using a Blender add-on called Light Wrangler. So I'm going to walk you guys through. It's a situation that people don't talk about a lot, and how to deal with it, because when working with things that are black, a little bit of a different situation you have to deal with when, other than when you're dealing with like items that are more like gray, white, or like different colors, right? But black is an interesting situation to deal with because you got glossy reflections, you have matte reflections, and then you have everything in between. So I'm going to get into it, talk about it a little bit, and walk you guys through how I deal with that situation on a PlayStation 5 controller. So we're going to go back to the PlayStation 5 controller and talk about it. I turned it black this time. It's not accurate, but that's okay. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it, and hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Okay, so I came across a great topic to talk about today. And it's dealing with product photography. Um and I mean, this can also deal with interiors also if you're rendering out a full interior scene, because I've dealt with this situation also. And the subject is talking about um dealing with products that are very dark. So we're just gonna even out the playing field and just talk about black, the color black. So how do you render out black product, black interiors? Today I'm gonna focus on product, but I have dealt with situations where I've had to render interiors that are very dark woods, black curtains, black furniture. And so for a photography shot, or we should say here rendering, how do we deal with that? And the solution to that, if you actually pay attention to the product, is the lights, the reflection of the lights. What kind of material does the product have, and how can it reflect that light back? So we all know in 3D that we have different levels of roughness, or we can call it glossiness, depending on which program you're using, right? Um, so like in this situation, this material here, if we're just talking purely about materials and not textures, we can see like this material in this area on this Xbox controller is more of a matte finished. And then if we look here on the bumpers, it's more of a glossy finish. The buttons is a glossy finish. And then the body of the controller itself is something more of something in between, I would say, right? And the way that you're dealing with this kind of situation is you're paying attention to the reflections instead of just the lighting, right? Because in 3D, sometimes us as 3D artists, I know a lot of this back in the day, we would instead not use reflections on some of the objects, right? And sometimes you'll meet some 3D artists, they'll say, hey, you need to put reflections on everything. And I'm more of the 3D artist that says, hey, you need to put reflections on everything because everything reflects in reality. It's just at a microscopic level, what does that surface look like, right? So, something that has a matte finish, right? That surface on a microscopic level is a lot more rough. There's more grooves in it and such. And then a more glossy finished surface is more even, so it's reflecting everything back at you properly at the same angle. Whereas like a matte finish surface is bouncing all the reflections at different angles. So if we're looking at this portion of the controller here, now we're talking about texture and materials. This material is somewhat of a I don't know what to call it, but it has texture to it, so it's breaking up the reflections, and so now we're getting a matte finish to it, right? But if we were to look at every little strand at a microscopic level, they would reflect perfectly on a microscopic level. So I hope this makes sense. And we're going to take this same talking point and apply it to 3D. So again, when we're working in 3D, we always want to try to replicate the physical world as close as we can. So it's a good idea to always think, hey, add reflections to everything. Now, in Blender, reflections are on everything by default, which is great. But some of us, like myself, where I come from using 3D Studio Max and V-Ray, you get the option of turning reflections off. And so by default in V-Ray, when you create a new material, you don't have reflections on, and you always have to turn those reflections on. And then now you have reflections where you can control it if it's off and on or something in between. And then you have another option where you can control the glossiness level also. So in Blender, it's a benefit because it just tells artists, hey, you're going to have reflections by default all the time, and I'm going to make it hard for you to turn it off. So that's the benefit of Blender, and you get really good results. But I'm just going to talk about this concept of rendering black objects in Blender. So let's get into it. So I've pulled up here on Pinterest some photography. I just searched up black product, and I'm just looking at different images, and we're going to try to do something like this in Blender. And I'm going to pull up the PlayStation controller. I've already turned it black. It's not perfect. It's probably not going to represent what the actual product is, but I'm just trying to share a concept of how to approach a situation when you're dealing with black product. Okay, so let's switch over to Blender. All right, we're going to start with a blank scene, and I'm going to import. I'm just delete all these layers so it's clean. Sometimes I don't even need all that. Okay, so I'm going to link the product in. You probably cannot see this part, but I'm just linking the controller in right now. And let's see, collection, PlayStation controller. Okay, so now we have the controller in. I'm going to use this scene as my default scene. I'm going to just call this assets. And so this is where we can just create our assets and drop them in. And then I'm going to also create another scene. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to do a full copy so that I carry my render settings with me. We're just going to call this shot 100, and we'll see how many shots we can get done today. And then I'm going to delete this. And then I'm going to re-import it as a collection instance, PlayStation controller. So this is coming from the assets scene. So now we got two different scenes, assets and then shot 100. And so I'm bringing in the controller from the assets scene. So we're always having one item reference to optimize our file. Okay, so let me just save this file real quick. You probably can't see this part again. Let me see here. Go X, local. Okay. One sec. Okay, here we go. And then PlayStation black controller. All right. Okay. So let's start setting up our camera. So I'm going to create a camera. And we're going to pull it back. Make sure I've got my right setup. And then we're going to set up our camera. And then pull it up, rotate it 90 degrees. And then I'm going to go over here. Again, I like doing like a 135. I know I default to that all the time, but it's a good lens to play with when we're doing product photography. So let's go to the camera view. And I'm going to switch it to a square image, as I always do. Format 1920 by 1920, so I can always crop it however I want in the end. And then we're just going to get a nice little rotation. So I'm going to do a full rotation. So I'm going to tap R and then press R again to have a free rotation on the product. So let's do something like this. Let's go back. I'm going to look at the reference again. You probably can't see it, but I'm looking at that Xbox controller. Okay, well, actually, I'll do something I like, actually. So we'll just go with something like this for now. And then I'm going to rotate it in the Y a little bit this direction. Actually, let's go like that. And then the X upward. And then we're going to take our camera and then fill the frame some more. Just like that. Let's see where our camera sits. Oops. Let's undo that. And then I'm going to bring this controller down a little bit into the frame. Kind of just center it. Okay. So this is what we're going to start with. What should we start with first? We should create our background. So in the reference, we're using a dark background with a little bit of halo around the product. So we're just going to create the background first. So I'm going to create another window here. Let's get this stuff out the way. Press N and T to get rid of those toolboxes. Oops, created a second one. So let's join. I'm going to pull it this way. Zoom in. Okay. And then we're going to come out of this camera. And then we're going to create a plane. Bring it back here so it doesn't affect the product. Rotate it up 90 degrees. Size it up a little bit. Okay. So that's our background. I'm going to select the camera again. We're going to do some things with the camera. So we're going to go over here to our camera options. It's already set to 135. I'm not going to do depth of field right now. I don't need it. I'm going to go to viewport display and pass part out. I'm going to change this to 1 so that we don't see beyond our frame. So I change that to 1 so it's completely black around the frame. All right. And now I'm going to just save it real quick since we have everything set up. And now I'm going to just start going into render mode to make sure everything is black. Okay. So by default, the material on the controller, I have the items lit up already. So those are the only things that are lit. It's not a problem. We want that. And then now I'm going to add a simple spotlight on the background. So we're going to start with the background first. I'm going to add a spotlight. I'm going to move it back here. And then I'm going to go to my side view, left, rotate it up like that because I want it to wash up. And then I'm going to move it down just like that. All right. And then right now our background is white. I'm going to give it a material. I'm going to make it a middle gray. So we're just going to go 0.5 to put it at a middle gray. And I'm going to turn the roughness up to make it completely rough. More of a matte finish as we had talked about earlier. And now we're going to play with the blend to soften this light. Make this smaller. And now we're going to turn the power down. Just very subtle. So we just want this light to be very subtle for our background. And then I'm going to probably pull this light down just a little bit too. And then I want to actually open it more. Have a really subtle gradient. And then turn the power just a little bit more down. And then maybe shift it to even it out into the frame. Okay, so that's our background. We got our background set up, right? All right, so now we're going to play with the product. So again, as I mentioned before, I have a tool called Light Wrangler, and I'm going to be using this tool, Light Wrangler, that I've always used when I'm lighting product. Okay, so again, let's add in a light, add light. All right. And again, I can just drag it around. We're going to find something. So we're just, let's light the edge of the product first. We're going to do some rim lighting. Okay. So again, I'm paying attention to my reflections. I'm not paying attention to the light, right? I'm paying attention how the reflections show the light. And so I got a nice rim right there. That's probably decent. Play with it a little bit more. Let's go down here. Let's try over here, see what we get. I like that look too. So I might go with something like that and then some over here too. Okay, so let's go with this. Right about there. Okay, and then I'm going to add another light. I like this look right here. So something like right about here is really nice. So like right, probably like that area. And then we probably need a kicker light in this area. A kicker light is like just something to boost up the shadow so we're not just getting all this information lost. So let's add another light right here, and we're going to turn the power way down, right? Because I want the key light to be that top part of the controller. So we're just going to add a kicker here in this area. And then we'll just do something like that. This is probably decent here, right? And then so lighting too, other thing, a lot of people want to default to 3-point lighting. That's a good place to start. But again, we're dealing with the product and we want to be able to show off this product and all of its features and contours. So sometimes it's not just a 3-point light setup. You know, 3-point light setup can be good for just like a psych shot, like when it's on a white background and it's just for customers to see real quick. But if we're trying to create this pinnacle flagship shot, sometimes it's going to take a lot more lights than just one 3-point light setup, right? Which is the 3-point light setup is a key, fill, and rim. In this case, we're using so much more lights. I can tell that I'm gonna have a lot more lights because I got some more areas to fill here, right? So I still have to fill this area right here. I'm probably gonna add a rim on this part so we can read this silhouette. I'm probably gonna add another light over here to fill this area in. And then I'm seeing some shadows over here. So we might have to also add a bounce card to bounce some light back into the shot. Okay. So now I'm going to add another light. Right. And I'm looking over here again. And let's see if I can get a rim on this right here area. So I want to get a rim. It's not a problem for my light to show up in the shot, because that light can be hidden. Again, we're working in 3D, so we can hide some of these things too. So I'm going to try to get just the edge, move my mouse real slow so I can get the edge of this. I don't want it to be too strong. Let me go up a little bit, looking at the top of the controller too. So just a little bit of rim. I'm just going to turn the power down. Maybe that'll help. Yeah, that helps. Okay, so good. See how we're getting this nice shape now? Now, if you guys remember in art too, it's not a problem to have some real dark shadows. I might want to fill it just a tiny bit, but sometimes it's not a problem to have real dark shadows. If you remember in art, if you guys ever taken art classes and you do the shading of a sphere, there's something called the Terminator shadow, which is in between. So like I'm looking at this as like that Terminator shadow right here. So it's just creating that nice shape. So we got a shape going this direction and we got a shape coming wrapping up in this direction. All right, so let's add another fill light in this area. And it's probably just going to be very subtle. So again, I'm turning that mouse wheel down. I'm trying to make sure I show off the shape of this controller properly. We're just going to turn it down. Maybe kind of blend it in this part. So I'm just moving it around on the surface. And again, I'm using Light Wrangler to help light this object. So you get some really cool options to just be able to drag it around on the surface of the controller. So let's find a good reflection. Okay, I'm going to go with that for now. I can always move it again. Okay, so I think I have a basic setup, right? And if you look in here, it's pretty crazy. See, look at this. I have lights everywhere, right? So I might have to move this background and this back some, right? Because now it's interfering. So I'm going to shift this all back, right, which is nice. And then I can just simply scale it all up. Now it's not being affected. So I can scale it all up. Boom. And then I can take this, move it down more. And then now I'm going to make it bigger. So I can go back to my light options here. And then let's see, size. We're going to make it big again, just like that. There we go. Cool. So now we're getting the look we're looking for, right? Now I'm seeing that this may need a rim light too, this top portion of the controller. Now that I'm looking at it, since we have it back on a dark background, because we want it to stand out from the black background, right? Let's see, make this light a little brighter. 2.5. No, 1 was 1. I'm gonna go 2. That was good. And then we'll bring it up. We're just gonna leave it down here. Okay, this is good. I like this. Oh, it's not centered though. Let's bring it over. Okay. So okay, so it's very dynamic. Again, I like very dynamic shots. I like having a lot of shadow, a lot of highlights, right? So this is very, very dynamic, okay? And this is not finished. This is not finished at all. This still needs a lot of work. Okay. I'm probably not going to get to that finished spot, but I'm just trying to share an example of how to deal with black product and black objects, or even if you're dealing with an interior. I'm going to explain a little bit about that, even though I'm not going to work on an interior scene. um okay, so I want to add another light. Let's try adding one more light, and I want to add in a another rim light. So let's see if we can get another rim light here. So I'm gonna press 2 to start rotating this around, maybe like right in this area. So let's see if I do that and then deselect. And then which light is this? It's probably the 5. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it off. See what happens. Off, on, off, on, off, on. Okay, so let's press tab, press 2. I'm gonna rotate it up a little bit. See when it starts getting affected. Okay, I know the top of this surface is very matte finished. So again, off and on, seeing what we get. Okay, so now I'm getting a little rim light on that top portion, which is nice. I like that. So now I'm breaking this up from the background. So if I turn it off, right, it's blending into the background, and I don't want that happening. So I added another rim light there to break it up. So now we can read it, right? All right, so I just want to show you guys that again, we're cutting out the product from the background. So let me turn off this spotlight. So as you can see, this is the rim lights, right? And I'm making sure that this product can stand out from the background. And this is beneficial because you could take this product and put it on a lot of different colored backgrounds. Say like a client wants this product to be able to be on a PNG file, transparent PNG file. Now that you've given it a nice rim, it would look good and stand out on a lot of different types of backgrounds. But also, again, we're just dealing with black on black, and we want this thing to just stand out from, the black on black background by picking up the highlights of our lights. So I want to add one more rim light to just cover this curvature area. So I'm going to add another light. It might need 2. So let's add a light. And again, we're just going to cover this curvature on the product. So it might be tough, but we can get there. There we go. So something like that. Press 2 to start rotating it. Whoa. It's touching the background. Oh, wait. 2. There we go. That was the problem. Okay, so we're just going to rotate it behind like that. I'm going to turn the power down. Let's turn the power down some more. All right, so now we got a nice cutout. So now we have a nice shape all the way around, so that is standing out. Okay, so let's add in, put this in this group. And then now I can group these items, matter of fact, and we're just going to call them all rims so we can turn them off. So let's go here, new collection. We're going to go light rim. Boom. Then the same collection. Oh, just leave it like that. That's fine. Okay. So now I could just have control over my rim lights. So I can just turn them all off, turn them on. See, there's my rim lights. All right. So let's go back to our back. Let's turn our background on. And then let's see our other lights. So I'm going to get rid of this key light. I'm going to actually start over on these because I'm kind of not happy with what I got so far. So I'm going to start over on these. I love my rim lights. And now I want to start here again. And I want to add a light. And we're going to get our key light again. So let's start with our key light. I want it coming from the right. That's pretty cool. I'm going to press 2 to start rotating it around a little bit. I like it how it was coming from this direction over here and how it's highlighting those buttons. That's real nice. So this is a nice look. I like this right here. Let's go up a little bit more. I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna go with this probably. Let me turn the power down just a little bit. Like that. Okay, that's nice. And then we're gonna probably add a fill. I'm gonna try a bounce card, matter of fact, see what this looks like. So let's try adding a plane. Take it to the right. And then I'm gonna rotate it up. Let's see, plane, Y, scale it up. And then I'm gonna just start moving it into the shot to see what happens. So we can already see the reflection on the left side of the controller coming in. So this is just a bounce card to see what happens if we use this instead of a light. Okay, that might do something. So let's get it right outside the frame. It's actually kind of decent. It's too much. I'm gonna try going to my top view. And then I'm gonna rotate it like this and then bring it over here. Let's back it up. Okay, rotate it some more. Oh, blocking my camera. Let's go here, front. See what happens if we move it up and down. How it affects the back. That's cool. Okay. So bounce cards are very beneficial. So, how can I explain this? So like in photography, we don't have an infinite resource. You don't have an infinite resource of lights in photography, right? And so you got to figure out how to be more, use a little bit of ingenuity. A bounce card is highly beneficial sometimes. And what a bounce card will do is it'll soften light also. So, you know, say you're shooting something, you got one light. Well, you could put a bounce card on the opposite side as your fill because that light is still flooding everywhere in the space, right? And now you can harness some of that light to bounce back into your shot. And what happens is instead of that light coming in as the same source, it's going to come back into the shot differently because it's bouncing off a surface in all directions. And so now you're getting a soft light that bounces back into your scene. So that's the benefit of a bounce card too. And you can use them in a lot of different ways. You just have to get creative. So I can even, in one shot that I have in a future video, I have a bounce card shooting onto the surface. I have a spotlight shooting onto the bounce card to create a certain look that I want. And so like on the spotlight that I have shooting on the bounce card, it's a colored light and it's just flooding over the product in a certain way that I like. So yeah, that's bounce cards. They're great. You can do some research YouTubing videos on them. Okay, so let's put this bounce card probably here in this area. I'm gonna try scaling it up just to see what happens too, just as a bigger surface. Okay, so we get a lot softer, which I like. I'm gonna back it up a little bit too, off. I don't want this balanced out with the key light. I want this side to be darker. Okay, so we'll go with that for now. I'm kind of iffy about it right now, but I'm gonna keep it for now. All right, so we need to get some light in this area. Maybe I'll try another bounce card. So I'm gonna duplicate and then rotate it in this direction. So I can just back it off a little bit too. I'm gonna turn it off and on. See what I get. So it's a little too close. So I'm gonna back it off some more. Let's see, go to my top view. Oh, top, and then back it off. Oh, it's not doing anything. All right, back it off. There we go. Okay, let's go here to my render settings. I'm gonna add a punchy look. Let's go high contrast. See what that looks like. Okay. like that. And then turn up my exposure. Maybe. Yeah, we'll go 0.5. Let's go full stop up. Maybe a little too strong. So go back to 0.5. So we still got some shadow in this area. So I'm going to probably get rid of this bounce card. I'm going to add another light. So let's add a light. I'm going to drag in this area. See what we get. Okay. There we go. Let me try dragging on these joysticks. That's a decent look. So maybe I can take the power down on this area. There we go. Press 2 so I can just start moving the light around, rotating it. Turn the power back up so I can actually see what's happening. Back down, left. Just trying to find a good spot. So I'm going to go back to 1. Play with this option again. Let's try lighten these parts. Nope. Maybe if we go over here. Already did that. So I'm just dragging around to find something that I like that looks interesting. So sometimes it could just be a lot of playing around just to get what you want. There's a lot of different contours on this controller that you have to work with too. This can actually be a little bit tough. So I'll go over here again. This area is so dark still. Press 2. Bring this all the way around. This area is just so dark. I think that's it right there. Actually, I'm gonna go back. Oh, where's my light? There it is. This is a tough one. It's okay. Let's keep working with it. Bring the light closer. Let's see. Okay. Well, we're going to go with this for now. I'm not going to hold you guys up. I'm going to go with that for now. A little bit problematic, but that's okay. Let me show you guys something else too to make this shot a little bit more cooler. So again, this is not final. Like I'm seeing some problem spots, but let's say we wanted to add some more energy to the shot, right? So now that we got our light set up, we can add some color to it also. So let's say I want to add some color on the left side of the shot, right? So I can go over here to my rim lights. Let's see which one is it. So I'm gonna start turning them off and on. There it is. So like, let's say I wanted to add some interesting color to this. So I can go here, and being that I'm using Light Wrangler, I already have some color temperature plugged up. And so I can go over here to my light properties, the nodes, and I have a color color temperature right here. So if I actually turn this to say 4500, you'll see that there's a warm color starting to come in. Right? Oh, do I have the right light selected though? So let's go back to 6500. So I want, where is it at? This one. Okay. So let's select that. Make sure we have it selected. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to go down to color temperature, and I'm going to change this to 4500. Right. So now you can see it's getting warmer, right? Let's try 3500. Okay. It gets warmer. Let's go 25. Very orange, right? 1500. Right. Now we're starting to get into the red area. Let's try 500. What do we get? Okay. Now we're going completely red, which is pretty cool. Let's go 1000. Oh, 100, 1000. Okay, I'm gonna go 1500. I like that. That was a good color. So like this is how you can add some like interesting looks to your shot now, right? Um, or I can go over here to this too, right? Because this is a bounce card. I can change the color of this surface. So watch this. So I know that color temperature was 1500. So if I add a material to this bounce card and I go black body, let's see where it's at. Black body. So that's our color temperature, and I change it to 1500. So look how it's bouncing back that light, right? So it's bouncing this color because the lights are hitting this bounce card, and the bounce card is colored red, and it's bouncing this red back into the shot, right? So now we're adding some interesting colors into our shot, right? So I can even change this rim back to white. Let's see if I change this rim back to white, what happens. So if I turn this off, right? Let's see what happens. So if I select the rim, what was the black body actually? Okay, they are the same color. A little bit different. And then I change this to 6500 again. What does that look like? Okay. Well, I like it. It's good when it was probably maybe 2000. See if I can get it to match 1500, 1000. Now they're starting to match better. 1250. Yeah, that's pretty close. Okay. So now we're getting an interesting look. So the only problem that I'm having is this light is bouncing back onto the background, which I don't like. So how can I fix that? I'm trying to think in my head how I could fix this issue. So I know I have light bouncing. So let's see what I have in my object properties. So let's go to visibility, shading. I might not know how to fix this live, but I'm just taking a quick look to see if I could fix this. Viewport, visibility, renders, diffuse, ray visibility, diffuse. There we go. Fixed. So all I did was turn off diffuse. So we fixed that issue. So now we just have the color bouncing onto the controller, and now we got our background back. Cool. So yeah, I mean, this was a quick video. I mean, not quick, but it's actually pretty long, but I wanted to just bring up this issue. I don't hear it talked about a lot when you're dealing with black product or anything else that's dealing with the color black. Again, all objects have reflections in the physical world. So that's why it's easier to light things in the physical world that are black. However, some things are hard to light in photography when it's black, you know. Like a photographer's nightmare could be Darth Vader. It could be their bane. It's just, it could be a hard character to light because being that Darth Vader is a black character in terms of his outfit, he has a very reflective helmet, right? And then he has all this leather on that has a texture to it. Then he has his cape, which is a matte finish. And then his pants is also, I think, like a kind of reflective color of black. So it's like a lot of different materials. And now you got to think about the texture of your light. How bright can you light each of these things? Because now you have to focus on the glossy part, and now you got to focus on the matte part. So it's like very tough, right? Because you're dealing with so many different materials. Now, when you're dealing with interiors, so I dealt with this project a couple years ago where I had a light an interior scene for a project, and it was a lot of dark woods. It was dark woods, dark curtains, dark furniture, black furniture, right? Everything was dark in this scene. It was a speakeasy for a project. It was this nice, expensive speakeasy bar. And I was having so much issues trying to figure it out. However, I already had adopted the concept of adding reflections to everything. And so what I had discovered, so in photography, when you're doing photography, photographers will light interiors not with just one shot. They will, if you watch videos on photographers that do interior photography, they will walk around the space, right? and they'll shoot the space with a flash. And so they'll hit each piece of furniture with the flash to highlight each thing, right? And then when they're done shooting the space, they will go into Photoshop and they will get all these photos that they took where they walked around the space and highlight each piece of furniture, whatever they needed to highlight. And they will bring all that stuff together to make everything stand out and look nice. So it's not just one shot they take, it's multiples. So how do we do that in 3D? Okay, so in 3D, in Blender, we have what you call light linking. Again, I've used 3D Studio Max for a long time in V-Ray, and in V-Ray and 3D Studio Max, you can do light exclusions or you can do includes. So I could set a light to one chair, and I could put a light over that chair, and I can say only include this chair, right? And then I make another light. I go to another chair and I say only include this chair for this light. And so based off where the camera is set, I will set the angle of my light to create like a rim or just highlight the shape of the furniture. And I'll go through my whole scene doing that, right? I'll pop each piece of furniture or each item that needs to stand out in this dark space, right? So now I've highlighted everything in my shot. And then I have my overall lighting in the space, right? So like maybe there's pendants, recessed lights, bar lights, or whatever, all that stuff, right? And now I'm able to have everything stand out in that shot because I did a light exclusion or include or light linking, as we call it in Blender. So that's how you can deal with a situation where it's a very, very dark space. So don't ever think that when you're seeing these beautiful interior images, it's a camera being set up and they just look at the space, right? And the lighting that's coming into the space and they shoot the shot and they walk away and they're done. It's not like that. They go around, they have a flash on a boomstick and they go around popping each piece of furniture, highlighting special parts of the space, and then they put it all together in Photoshop. So you have to think in the same way when it comes to 3D. You know, we got a lot more flexibility, of course, but you want to take these old school principles and apply it to the modern age of how we're doing these images. So thanks for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a lot. This is something that I think about a lot when it comes to dealing with black product. I've dealt with this issue a lot of times. Hopefully you guys can take this information and apply it to what you're dealing with out there. And thanks for watching the video. See you later.